G'day everybody and welcome to a new edition of The Local, the podcast for local footy lovers across the nation. We don't worry about what's happening up the chain. We are worrying about grassroots and the people that make it happen, and we do it all thanks to the people at Premier Data, who are the best in the business in analysing and distributing and gaining all the information from local footy and sending it out to the community as well. And we love them, and they are chock-a-block at the moment, the start of a brand new footy season, so well done to the team at Premier Data, and thank you for your love here on The Local. There's been a lot to discuss. There's lots happened at the start of a new footy season, as always happens across the nation. And today we're going to find out a bit more about a brand new senior footy club here in Victoria and find out how they're going. Not an easy job, I wouldn't imagine, getting up and going, let alone performing. But we're going to find out more about it and be joined by Trent Rogers, the coach of the Surf Coast Suns in the Bellarine Football League. He joins us. Trent, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good on you, buddy. Now, I'm fascinated by this, I must admit. I've had a couple of mates take over clubs that have come out of recess but not start a senior football club. That would be a little bit challenging. How's it been so far for you?
Challenging's probably a real accurate way to sum it up. Exciting at the same time. I got the role at the back end of 2024, so it was to be honest, a bit of patience was required too, because you sort of got a senior coaching role and you're like, oh, I've got no team. Because people are like, how's your team looking and stuff like that. It's like, well, at the moment, to be honest, I haven't got anyone. So, and then the other strange thing too is you go into essentially 2025 as an actual season. You have a whole season of just sort of waiting in limbo and trying to start the conversation with players, but quite often players are like, well, I want to chat at the end of the year, and time and patience wasn't something that we really had that much of, so we had to be a little bit, a bit more pushy than what some other recruitment processes may be.
Yeah, okay, which I want to get into shortly as well. Just for those that are watching or listening from around the country, where exactly are the Surf Coast Suns? Where's the Bellarine Footy League, just for them?
So Surf Coast Suns, we're based in Torquay North.
Yep.
Essentially, in our league, we play essentially a lot of the coastal towns down by the Surf Coast. So there's Torquay, Ocean Grove, Mottawarri, Anglesey, Queenscliff, and so on.
And Port Arlington, which is important, which we'll get to shortly.
Yeah, yep.
So you had to be a bit more aggressive with your recruiting, which no doubt, because it's a really competitive, let alone a big region. There's a lot of footy that gets played down there. There's good local footy money that goes around there, let alone the quality that you might want to step up and play for a little bit less. How did you target your players?
Well, we had a bit of the position where there was a number of top age guys that were under 18s for 2025. So we knew we'd have some youth coming through, some young lads, but at the same time, not all of them are going to be ready for senior football, let alone like a lot of lads come out of under 18s and start apprenticeships and so on and don't want to play footy, which we quickly learn about as well. So essentially it's just putting a list of names together in hope, playing it's a bit of a volume game, to be honest. So Brodie Marston's our list manager, and he did, to be honest, like a large chunk and majority of the work. And between myself, Brodie, our president Jay, we also had Aaron Black sign up as the first player, so he had a bit of networking and connections as well, which always helps, just to give us a bit of maybe try this guy or try that player. Once you start having a few conversations, then it's just a matter of hoping that there's a bit of a domino effect, and one person signs that knows a couple of people. So we ended up for example, we had our fullback Mitch Gawn signed up. He was playing in the Colac League, and he announced it to his playing group pretty early. And then coincidentally, a couple of months later, we had a couple of those players who live in the Geelong and Torquay region that were looking to play closer to home as well. And one thing sort of just led to another. But yeah, there's a lot of calls that go unanswered, a lot of text messages that get no response. It's just, purely a numbers game, I guess.
Yeah. And are you a local?
Yeah, I'm in Armstrong Creek, so I'm about 10 minutes away.
Yeah, right. And because you played at, where'd you play or coached at Airport West in the Essendon District Footy League, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So I played a decent chunk of my senior career at Airport West. So I personally grew up in Airport West, played juniors there. And I moved down this way in 2019. Started coaching Airport West after the COVID year. Their coach at that time was lucky enough to get a gig with Sandringham. So he moved on to a VFL opportunity, and I guess I was a little bit of right place, right time, and I did the commute back to Melbourne for a few years, which had its challenges, but it was an exciting time.
And then you ended up at South Barwon for a little while?
Correct, yeah. So, yeah, 3 years at Airport West, and then after that ended up as the forward line coach at South Barwon, and then came into this role. So essentially 2025, no official role. I was basically just starting the prep work for this season.
Rightio. So you walk into a club that's looking for a brand new senior team, and my understanding is, you might be able to help me with this, is that the Surf Coast Suns in 2016 was formed as a club because of the population explosion down in that part of Victoria, that part of the Surf Coast, that they just needed another club for all the new people and new families and young kids to be a part of.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. And there's amongst Torquay, Armstrong Creek, Mount Dunedin, within this part of the region, there's kids everywhere. So as an example, I'm in Armstrong Creek. My young lad plays in the 14s down in Armstrong Creek here. And for them, they've got 5 under 10s. I think they've got 4 under 12s. And then you go 10 minutes down the road, Surf Coast's the same. There's 4 under 10s, 3 under 12s. And then 3 minutes down the road from them, Torquay's got the same. So within a 10 to 15 minute drive, 3 clubs essentially have anywhere from 10 to 15 teams in each bracket, from under 9s to under 14s.
Awesome. That's great. The kids are out there playing footy. We love that.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. But the population explosion is the reason why the club was born, which is amazing. And when you think about it, in the last 10 years. So, and you've got to put this senior team together. So there's naturally going to be a junior development pathway. So that's helpful in some respects. But to start it off, you're going to have to go from outside, which we were talking about before. How many guys did you have the first training session for the pre-season?
The first one was actually pretty good. I actually got him in at BFT in early October, just because we wanted to get a bit of an early start. We had 36 for that, which sort of became a bit of the baseline for probably the first 6 weeks. Once we started to get that mid-November coming into December, we started to get a few sessions above that 40, 45. And then once we got back last week of Jan, early Feb, the 40, 45 quickly turned into 50 plus, where we're pretty fortunate where, as a new club, JD, our reserves coach, has had the challenge of getting around to be honest, 12 to 15 players on both Thursday nights, and apologising and letting him know that there's no game of footy for them. We almost need a thirds, to be honest.
Right. So that was my next question. So you got first and seconds at the moment?
Correct. Yep.
Right. Okay. So the thirds won't be far away by the sounds of things, with the way things are going, which is awesome. Poor old JD won't have to make as many phone calls.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
On Thursday night when you're having your passer and your selection. And now I've coached local footy, and I know that squads are one thing, but quality's probably a different thing at times as well. When you looked at your squad and you saw your 36 or your 45, whatever the number was, midway through, did you work out that you were going to be able to be competitive, or were you a bit worried?
At first, don't get me wrong, I was definitely nervous, because it's one of those things. It's a big challenge getting sometimes players to shift clubs at all, let alone try something new and take a risk, because you speak to the first 3 or 4 and they're like, well, how are you looking so far? And it's like, well, at the moment, no good at all, because no one's actually said yes yet. We've essentially got 2 players at this stage I'm playing. So it's this is why we need people like you to commit and create something and build, be part of essentially a history making side. And it was a big challenge at first. And so when it came down to, we started feeling pretty confident with it. But then you've also got to look at, footy's footy. There's going to be injuries, unavailabilities and stuff like that. So you start to think, all right, well, where's the depth at worst case scenario and so on. And we just got to work from there. But yeah, it did. Definitely nervous to begin with, but it didn't take too long to start to, especially once we were getting 40, 45 at a session, then you're always going to have 5 or 10 not at training. So it started to feel like, at least we're going to have 2 full teams out there, and we can build on that. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, mate, you've done a great job. You and the crew have done a great job to make it happen to this point. So well done just on that. What about pre-season? What the pre-season game series look like? Did you learn anything? Did you think you were going to be better or worse than you perhaps had visions of? What was the outcome from the pre-season games?
The pre-season games actually, to be honest, we actually surprised ourselves. We scheduled the pre-season games in before Christmas with a couple of teams that were more regional based than what we are, out towards outside of Ballarat, one team just outside of Colac. So we sort of just chose a couple of teams because we weren't sure what we were going to be like. So we didn't go straight to, any teams we were going to be playing against or anything like that, just so that we could just, get the boys out of town, play a couple of away games, a couple of road trips just to see where we're at. Our first pracky match didn't quite go to plan in regards to the team we were playing ended up making cricket finals. So we actually ended up, we actually got the phone call from them about 7-8 days before the game, and they said, you know what, we're going to have probably 28 to 30. And I'm like, oh, I've got 45. So we're going to make this work. So essentially what we had to do in our first practice match is the opposition brought in 28 to play 4 quarters of footy, and we had to play the seniors for a first half and then our reserves for the second half. So I just basically asked their coach, I'm like, listen, if you can just give me your absolute best squad for quarters 1 and 2 and then bring on your depth, and I'll play my reserves in the second half and we'll make that work. So we came out of that. It was the best thing about that was, you know, the boys got a bus journey there, half a game of footy together, which they were pretty convincing in, and then a bus journey home. So like it was a bit of a team building day as well. The second one, we went out to Birregurra, and we had it was good to get a 4-quarter hit out. We surprised ourselves by kicking 9 goals in the first quarter.
First
so
quarter?
It was in the first, we actually came in at quarter time 9 goals 2, which was just not expected at all. Like the boys just played some irresistible footy. It was like, all right. And so we sort of had to come away from that, and in a way to put a bit of a reality check to the boys where, you know, come round 1 on Easter Saturday, there's not going to be any games that we're probably going to play like this, and that's what we need to be prepared for. I think, you know, I might have, mentally set myself up for, like, when I've said that is, you know, set it up where round 1 was a complete surprise, and we ended up getting it. To be honest, round 1 we got hammered, which was.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
So this is the thing, right? So you walk into a brand new team, into obviously new competition because it's a brand new team, and you play one of the powerhouses of the competition, Torquay, which would be the North Torquay derby is effectively what it is. It's a local. I imagine it's going to get a fair bit of history and a bit of heat in it through the journey as well, being so close together. And it's a 148-point margin.
Correct.
What's the sort of the post-game conversation from the coach to the players after that happens in the first game of the club's history?
Yeah, it was a challenging one. Tried to stay I was trying to stay as calm and as composed as I possibly could. Like, we sort of came in, like I said, I warned the boys coming into the game that the opposition we're about to play is nothing like we've had in practice matches, and you need to be prepared that Torquay are going to punch you back if they don't punch you first, type thing, and we need to be ready. Like, we need to be ready to go. And what I actually didn't really take into consideration in the lead up is, you know, Easter Saturday, they're saying there was 5,000 there, and to be honest, every time I turned around, the crowd was 10 people deep, so it probably was. And the boys essentially a bit overwhelmed, overawed by the occasion. And, you know, a new team that have only played 6 quarters of footy together just didn't quite follow structures and gel together the way we would have liked. And we've come up against a side that Torquay have been strong for years. Like, they've won multiple flags at both reserve and senior level since COVID. And they've played finals every year. So playing in front of 2,000 to 5,000 people for Torquay, they do that 3 times a year. So they've looked at the occasion and thought, well, you know, the last time they played last year in a preliminary final was probably the same crowd. Whereas our boys just got completely overawed against a side that had played a lot of footy together. And essentially, we just weren't anywhere near as competitive as, from a coaching point of view, I would have liked. So I kept it positive in the rooms after the game and just said, you know, round 1 is what it is. It's not going to define us, but we need to, the week coming up, we've got to have a big focus on, 1, sticking to our structure, trusting the process, and just a bit of self-belief. And that's what we did.
And, well, that's quite phenomenal to be able to have that loss and then come out the week after with any level of confidence. And you played Port Arlington. I touched on them before. Pretty important part of the league because it's your first win. You had a win. You've backed up a 148-point loss with a win over Port Arlington. That's an amazing performance.
Yeah, the boys were amazing. Like, yeah, and it was an amazing performance. Like, in the back of my mind, I thought, you know what, they're all human beings, and when we're being competitive through the game, I'm like, it's probably natural for them all to think, if we go down by 3, 4, 5 goals here, everyone's going to think, wow, that's a big improvement, and congratulate us on that. But a big focus over pre-season that I put to the boys is, you know, round 1 to 18, and, you know, if the luxury of finals comes upon us while I'm senior coach, is I want to play every game to win, because that's part of the enjoyment. Like, of course, we're going to learn, we're going to progress, we're going to learn about ourselves and each other as we go. But at 2:10 every Saturday, 44 players go out there wanting to win. So let's just have that mindset that if we, go into every game wanting and believing we can, then the win's going to come sooner than what the outside world sort of expects. And the boys, sort of followed that through, and we stuck to our structure, like our structure's much better. The things that we spoke about at training throughout the week and the whole preseason, things just sort of, it was one of those days where things came together, and 22 players all just contributed their role. And like I said to them, we don't need a hero, we just need 22 contributors. So just when your moment's there, play by the moment.
Mate, well, the hero, according to me, the hero's you and your coaching staff. That's a great effort, mate. It doesn't matter what level of footy you're playing in. If you've got particularly a new crew, let alone a new club, on your team playing their first game, and they have that experience first up, to be able to bring that back together and get them to stay the course after that, kicking the guts and kicking the agates first up. That's a big effort, mate. Also, massive kudos to you and the coaching staff.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Like I said I think we probably underestimated at the Siren how big of a win it was. And so I did make note to the boys after the game, you've done something that for a bunch of lads that have known each other for an absolute maximum of 6 months, bar maybe a couple of one or two in the room that you've played some footy with long ago or in the past, is what they've done was just takes real grit, character. And I just, basically said to them, you've just done something that no one can take away from you. So soak it up, absorb the room, because it's a day that, you'll probably never forget.
Was it a good night?
The boys actually had organised a function with the netballers throughout the week. So there's already a pre-organised function. So, but for me, no, I just went into the rooms. I had a Guinness and then went home. I just wanted to soak it up.
On tap. You haven't got Guinness on tap in the rooms, have you?
Nah, Port Arlington had it in. I would love it if they did have it on tap. Port Arlington had it in had cans, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to have one just to absorb the moment, and then I'm going to go home and probably emotionally crash.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad that you got something out of it, the Guinness, and the boys and the girls had a good night that night. Where do you play, by the way? Where's the home ground? The
home ground is just on the Surf Coast, just off the Surf Coast Highway in Torquay North. So as you're coming into Torquay, there's most people know the Surf Coast Shire Council building on the left. We're just directly behind that. Yeah, so just in Torquay North there. Awesome. So you've had an amazing experience, the chocolates and the boiled lollies experience in the first 2 weeks of your existence, really. What happens next? Have you got the lid on? Have you taken it off? What's the mindset from the coach coming into round 3? Lid's definitely on. As I said to the boys after the game, is definitely enjoy. I want them to enjoy Saturday night. I'm enjoy the night. It's your day. But I was in the WhatsApp group first thing Sunday morning to tell them to get their recovery in and send the pics, and let's start to, we've enjoyed now, but let's focus on what's coming up. And funnily enough, we've actually got a bye. So, So in the first 3 weeks, we've literally had, been absolutely annihilated. Then we've had a very exciting win, and then this weekend it's nothing. So we'll just prepare for Queenscliff, which is following week, who actually knocked off Torquay last weekend. Yeah. Right. So we've got some work to do to get a hold of Queenscliff then. We do. We've actually draw-wise is, we've definitely been thrown in the deep end. I think we've got 3 of last year's top 4 in the first month, and we play all top 5 from last year twice. Oh, cop that. So we've been given the challenge, which is fine. It is what it is. Can't control the fixture, I guess. But that's where we're at. So we'll head to Queenscliff. I'm going to go deep philosophically on you here. What does success look like for you and this club, this team this year? Then, if that's the case, brand new team, you're coming up against the best teams twice at least. What's success look like? For me personally, I like to set the bar high and, sort of reach for the stars with it. I'd love to play finals, which I know from the outside looking in, everyone probably thinks I'm an absolute nutter. But I will hand on heart go into every game with every aspiration that we can be more than competitive and win. So that'll be my intention. I think a lot of the players are sort of gradually buying into that. I think up until Saturday, some of them thought I was probably mental, to be honest. But I'll keep pushing that, and I've told them that that's my commitment to them. So success for me is like I'd love to play finals, even like I think worst case scenario, I'd like, a 50-50 in regards to win-loss. But then I also know that some people are probably looking at it now and like, well, they've won a game, that's a success. But for me, and with the group, I've got a lot of belief in them. So I think we can do some pretty exciting things and shock the system.
Well, that's awesome. We'll be following the progress here on the local. Don't worry about that all the way through the season. I'm interested just from your perspective, and what's the best part of coaching local footy, being involved in local footy? Because it's a huge time commitment. Clearly, you've got the business there at BFT in Torquay, doing great things, and you obviously got that run. You've got family as well. You talked about that before. It's a huge commitment. So what's the best bit? What do you get out of it?
I love the challenge of it. Like the challenge of like every Saturday, just in trying to get 22 lads to enjoy their footy and have some fun together, but then also to get the best, be the best version of themselves from that 2:10 to 5 o'clock sort of time frame. And like it was asked as well, what was the part you were looking forward to most when it came into round one? And I said to the boys just before they ran out, like my favourite part of the Saturday is that last 30 seconds before they leave the rooms, and you just got 22 faces staring right back at you and ready to go do something that, even though they've all just met each other, I'm like, our common thread between the 22 of you and me is that we all love footy. So let's just, have our time together, and let's enjoy our moment, our few hours where in some way on Saturdays between 2:10 and 5, footy's such a small part of this world, but for 3 hours a week, it's all we've got. So that's what I sort of enjoy.
How good. It's a great way to look at it, I reckon. Just a couple of hours together, doing things together, best game in the world. It's a great thing to do. And you're one of the leaders of that footy club, and we'll be all over that through the year on the pod here. We can't wait to follow the progress of the Surf Coast Suns and the Bellarine Footy League. Trent, we really appreciate your time. Well done on the win on the weekend, and enjoy the bye. Good luck next week against Queenscliff.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Daniel. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for having me.
Good on you. Trent Rogers, the coach of the Surf Coast Suns, brand new team in the senior comp there in the Bellarine Footy League. What an experience. The first couple of weeks have been belted by one of the best teams. First win and then the bye. Goodness gracious me, local footy never stops giving us something. Good stuff. That's it for today's edition of the podcast. Check out all the socials, subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll be back again next time on The Local.